what do people have to do to tune that relevancy from the base algorithm to where it's considered good? Like, could you give us some examples?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot, and part of the reason why these large language models and embedding models and vector databases have become so popular is because they let you sidestep a lot of these things. So an example of, I'm just looking around my desk here. So I might call this a cup, or you might call it a glass. Those don't have any keyword overlap between the two. And so trying to sort of semantically relate those two things together means that I have to now set up synonyms. And if I search for cups, should it match? And the answer to most people is yeah, it probably should. And so you have things like stemming, and every language is different, right? In Chinese, there's no spaces between words. So you need to come up with some sort of mechanism to ingest the keywords by splitting these characters in some sort of arbitrary stream. And many languages like Turkic have hugely compounded words where there's actually many different sort of concepts within them.
Like German.
So German is a little bit like that. Turkish is worse. So there's like the longest Turkish word is like 280 characters long or something.
Oh
crazy.
my goodness.
So you have to come up with specific algorithms that do each of these things that's very language specific. And then you need to come up with, again, things like synonyms and so on. And sometimes synonyms actually are very difficult to understand. The word it in English, but it's written as IT, but IT also has potentially the meaning of information technology, and it potentially has many other different meanings to it as well. It could mean the movie It, and actually even trying to place each of those conceptually in terms of what the user might be searching for requires potentially understanding the context of the other bits of the text that they're searching for. And keyword systems just generally don't handle that, or they'll do things like adding phrase search and all these other things that are kind of proxies for doing that, but they don't work all that well for...
The idea with vectors and this meaning or searching for meaning, like you don't have to do stemming, you don't have to do synonyms, or do you still have to do some of that stuff on the edges? Or is it just like those are no longer issues? So I'm trying to understand, like, is it just you don't need them anymore, or you only now need them in specialized circumstances?
So you're getting to actually a really interesting point that I'm going to answer slightly different. If you're operating a pure embedding model, that those generally... You still do need to take into some segmentation, for example, to understand where the phrases sort of end potentially. And you'll see things like word to vec or sentence to vec or paragraph to vec, for example, that try to do something like just trying to understand where the particular boundaries were. So if you're operating in a pure vector basis, then generally a lot of those things are handled for you. But what I think the industry has largely learned over a while is, while these sort of large language models or embedding models can do very well at well understood data, they operate less well on things that never showed up in the training data. So things like names and product IDs and these sorts of things, like there's no chance that, Steve, as famous as you are, that somebody searched for Mayzak and is going to get a good result out of a pure embedding model, because it's just not going to have shown up to show up. So what we found, and what I think most of the industry is leaning towards, is that you do need to have both a semantic sort of large language model based system alongside a keyword to handle where each of them is very good at. But then you get into this like multi-system management, and you need to blend the results correctly and these sorts of things. So you still do need it, but mostly on very unusual training data or product IDs and those sort of things.